Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Jonathan McHugh, founding co-member of the Music Supervisor Guild, and along with our president, Joel C. High, and vice president, Madonna Wade Reed, we're happy to welcome you all for our second or third, whatever it might be, fall fundraising panel series. This is going to be a really good one. And obviously, as we use the word fundraising, we have one of our sponsors who's just come in for a full-time, long-term deal. Joel Feinberg from The Wolf Music is here. So I wanted to introduce him and say, what's up? Joel, you want to get off mute?
I'm off mute.
Bang.
What's up, Jonathan?
You're off mute.
Thank you.
All right. So Joel, first of all, thank you so much for your support. And you guys to leave the city in pandemic and get out of there and set up shop up north. Talk about how the move's been for you a little bit.
Everything's been amazing. Not easy, but we've been on top of things and very fortunate. So we're in a great position. We're actually just getting ready for 21, 22.
Right. And I know, you and I talked that you were doing something very cool with one of my favorite all-time rap group, Fu-Schnicken's Chip Fu project you're putting together to help them, get some great music out in the community from disadvantaged kids out there.
Yeah, that's right. There's quite a few things going on right now. And because we were able to sort of situate ourselves early, we've got some great partnerships going on with in the commercial hip-hop world that's going to be coming out in the next few months. And this thing with Chip Fu is just amazing. It's really the most exciting thing I have right now. And what we're doing is creating sort of a 360 artist and business development program for kids in inner city schools. And we're starting an incubator program here in upstate New York, and then we're going to take that cross country. So it's about artist development. It's also about business development. And it doesn't end once the program's over. So we're going to take these kids the whole way. So very excited to bring that out.
So the idea is that they're going to help create music that we supervisors might be able to license down the road?
Oh, they're going to create the music. And yes, hopefully, you guys are going to license that. And then all of the proceeds, all the profits are going to be going back to the schools where they came from. So we're going to be building out, buying instruments, computers, even people to teach how to play these instruments. So once the first level's done, we've built this catalog with these kids. Then we're going to go back into the schools and start working with the kids that weren't in the program the first time. So there's going to be a lot of layers. And I'm very excited to do this. It's a little too much to talk about now, but the program is called Fight for Music, and it's with just the legend, Chip Fu, from the mighty Fu-Schnickens.
That's awesome, man. Well, look, thank you so much for sharing a sneak peek of that and obviously supporting the Guild.
Yeah.
It means a lot. Again, we love kicking out these panels, but it's all about how do we stay alive and stay afloat and keep this great information flowing out there into our community, which we love. So
well, you guys keep me afloat with your information. Yeah. Jonathan, really quickly, I just want to thank all you guys for – I know I support you, but you guys also support me just by, as you mentioned, the information, the community, and thank you guys for keeping this thing going. And I'm with you guys the whole way.
We started this thing 10 short years ago, and it's grown into a larger endeavor. So anyway, I'm going to kick it off to Lindsey Wolfington, who's one of our board members on the Education Committee, who's been helping us spearhead this panel series. So Ms. Wolfington, off to you, and enjoy.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. And thank you, Joel. It's really cool to hear about you trying to cultivate, music making in young people. So that's awesome. We love bringing in these panel series. I just want to tease that next week, we're going to have a panel about music for animation, and then the following week about music and reality TV. So keep a lookout for those. Today's panel came to us really organically, and we're super excited about it. So I'm not going to delay any further. I'm going to introduce your moderators for today. SVP Creative Sync at Kobalt, Chris Lakey, and SVP Creative Music and Production at Fox Entertainment, Mamie Coleman. Thank you guys for being here, and take it away.
Thanks. Hey, everybody. Chris, Kobalt, Mamie. Let's just kick it off. We have such a great panel. I want the panelists to sort of give a little brief introduction of themselves. So we'll start with AG.
Hello. I don't know if you can see me. Do I come up? Oh, fantastic. Okay, cool. So I'm AG. I'm a producer, writer, mix engineer out here in LA. And I used to be an artist back in the day, and I've been, in this wonderful city for 20 years, and I've had a very long career that has landed me to where I am today. But yeah, I started out as an artist. I did the whole record label thing, and then that fell into a fiery pit of hell. And so I decided I didn't want to be an artist anymore, and then started about 10 years on my producing path once I finally grew the lady balls to actually do it and call myself a producer. And so, yeah, and I fell into the sync world pretty much right away. And I've just been in it ever since. So, yeah, that's me.
Thank you, AG.
Yeah.
Tommee, you want to say something?
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
All right, I had no idea that I was going to have to introduce myself, so this is off the cuff. I was like, my whole life I grew up listening to cinematic music and like trailer music. I would like listen to it in my car driving to school. Like I was just like that nerd that loved trailer music. And so when I, through my journey as a musician and producing for artists and stuff, somewhere along the way, my publisher asked me, hey, so would you want to be a part of our TV film camp? And I was like, what's that? Like, what's where you make music for like movie trailers and stuff? And I was like, yeah, that's a thing. Of course I want to do that. And so I jumped in and I did a few songs. And a couple months later, we actually got the first song that we did in a movie trailer for a Will Smith movie. And I remember seeing that trailer like the first time, like the picture to the music. And like ever since then, I've been hooked. There's like game over after that. So I've just been I do some, artists still, but I really love pouring into cinematic TV film music. That's like my favorite kind of music to make.
That's awesome. Lindsey?
Hello, everybody. I'm Lindsey Ray. I'm singer, songwriter, artist, new producer. And kind of like AG, I started out doing the artist thing years ago. I was signed to an indie label. That was how I started. And interestingly enough, I did actually like my first time making money back then was with a sync. It was a Target commercial back in 2008. That was kind of a short-lived little thing. And then I ended up not really thinking I wanted to be an artist. And so then I wrote for other people for a long time. I lived in LA and I wrote for Pop Cuts. And then I moved to Nashville about 6 years ago and got back into sync sort of not really on purpose. I started a band with an ex, this kind of like punk rock band called Farmdale, and we started getting lots of syncs. And I remembered how fun writing for sync is. And then I was like, well, screw writing for Pop Cuts. I just want to do sync all the time. So now that's what I do full time. And I have 3 artist projects that I release music under that I will talk about later.
Cool. And lastly, Bo.
Last but not least, it's your boy, Bo Williams. What's up, everybody? I'm Bo Williams. I want to start off by saying thank you to the Guild and everybody here for including me in this community and in this talk today. It's truly an honor for me to be able to speak with you all and to just share ideas with you here today. So I'm full of gratitude and I'm happy to be here. My name is Bo Williams, and I am a rapper, songwriter, composer. Some production, but primarily my focus is working on music for media or for sync. I moved to LA like 10 years ago. Prior to that, I was doing the traditional trajectory of being an artist, trying to just like figure out how to get on the radio, get that like top 40s hit. You know what I mean? Like I was taking that traditional path. I battled on 106 and Park Freestyle Friday, retired as a champion on that. Did a ton of stuff on the ranks coming up. And then about 10 years ago, moved to LA, and a mutual friend of mine who knew of my history in hip hop asked me to link up with a friend of theirs who was looking for an artist to collaborate with and create something new He was already working in film, television. I said yes. I just wanted to make music. I came out here. I was struggling. I knew nobody. We worked together. We made one song, and the rest is history. 6 months later, I saw that song on TV, and in a massive trailer, a Samuel L. Jackson movie, and from there I was hooked. I'm like, yo, this is what I do. It was just so right for my voice, which is driven and creating music with depth and emotional tonality. My heroes are all massive. They all give massive presentations on stage and cover huge spaces. And it's always been my authentic voice to project myself and express myself in that way. And I just found my home here because that works so well for picture. So that's who I am. Good to meet you.
Thank you.
Cool. So AG, who were some of your champions and mentors along the way? And also in particular, like, what does the term mentor mean to you?
It's funny. I've kind of carried this question with me like over the years, because there really has been these like kind of obvious stepping stones that were very much attributed to certain people that I met along the way that championed me. And, like I when I first started producing, I just happened to have a knack for drama, which is, not unlike my entire personality. And, when I first started, there's this company called Secret Road, which everybody knows. And they really gave me a shot when I first started producing, like before anybody like thought that I could pull it off if I wasn't the one singing. And I was with them for many years exclusively, and now I'm non-exclusive, but I'm telling you, I owe the beginnings of this part of my journey and a lot of the success I have to Secret Road believing in me before anybody else did. Like Higby and Kayla and Lynn, they will always hold a special place in my heart. Seriously, like, absolutely. And then when I was sort of on my way, I discovered the trailer world because my friend Natalie Wally, she was like, hey, I want you to do this cover of a Trent Reznor song or Nine Inch Nails song, Hurt, And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what trailer music is. I have no idea what I'm doing. She's just like, just shut up. Just try it. And I was like, fine. And so, of course, I suffered and cried and was like, gonna quit like 15 times while I was doing it. And then at the end, when I sent it to her, she was like, what the hell? And it almost finished. It only didn't finish because Trent Reznor did not approve it at the end, but that's fine. I ended up getting something else right away. So, but the point is that she also gave me the opportunity to see what I was made of in that way. Like nobody had ever asked me to do it. I didn't even think it was ever really an option. And then, I got that trailer bug like right after. I was like, holy crap. Like the first time I saw something of mine in a trailer, I was like, this is the shit. I never would have thought that I could do it had I not had Natalie Wally being like, hey, nobody knows who you are in this world. Nobody, I have no idea even if you can do it, but I just have a feeling you can. And I want to give you a shot. And as from one woman to another, it's like, that's kind of all we really need is just the shot, Anyway, so there was that. And then I went on to birth a child while being a producer and writer and engineer, and trying to navigate that, and was very, very terrified of that idea. I was 39 when I finally got pregnant. Because, there were no women. First of all, I didn't really have any mentors at all that were female producers. And on top of that, I literally knew no female producers that had ever become a mother, especially one that was carrying. And so I was like, well, after a certain point, I was like, you know what? I just, I've got to be the first, I guess. And so of the people that I know. And so I did it, and then I was off of work for maybe a couple months, and then Annie Colvin calls me up, and she's like, "Hey," she's like, "I know you're like, you just like had a baby and everything, but if you're ready, let's go." She was the first person to give me a gig doing something, I forget what trailer it was or whatever, something for Netflix, but she was like, "Hey, I'm not viewing you any differently just because you had a kid. You're still dope. You're still committed to your craft. Like, I don't think that you're now going to go off and be a mom and never be heard of again." It was like something I didn't know that I really needed. I think that a lot of times I tend to kind of give an air that like, I've got my shit together and nobody can F with me. And a lot of times that's true, but a lot of times it's not true. And sometimes I'm not aware of it. But when I got that call, I realized that I needed her in that moment to be like, it's for somebody to be like, "You're still here. We still see you. Just because you want to be a mother does not mean you don't want to be a producer also." And so those are just a few of my champions coming up. And, you know, Elisa Coleman over at Abco, she is like my Jewish aunt. And she has always, she's kind of I would definitely consider her a mentor. Like, she's always like, "What the fuck do you want? What do you want out of this? Tell me what you want. Just ask for what you need and don't apologize for it." And I have her in my head, like whenever I'm negotiating something that I'm uncomfortable about. And because a lot of this isn't really even about the money for me, but, you know, it is for my wife and it is kind of for me, you know what I'm saying, for me too, but I love what I do. And so it's hard for me to kind of just be like, "Yeah, this is what I want. This is what the work that I've done is valued at, and this is what I should be paid," or whatever. I don't know. And so she's definitely been like, I think that a champion and a mentor, they're the people that show up in your life right when you need them. And a mentor is just that voice or that little person sitting on your shoulder being like, "Hey, so I know you want to like crawl under a rock right now, but don't do that. Do this instead. You can do it. Just, you know, put on your big girl pants and move forward and do that." And so I really wish that I could say that there was any female producer or engineer coming up that I could point to. There isn't. And so that is part of why I have really made it my mission to be that for other women as much as I can throughout my career. I don't want that to happen to other girls coming up. I really don't. And so I'm just doing whatever I can to kind of, you know, keep that from happening to other women. So that's me.
Awesome.
Well, thank you, AG. That's very inspiring. And, you know, I'm sure all the young up and coming artists, females are coming up, are inspired by you. But I wanted to take a quick moment to thank the Guild for putting on these amazing panels for the music community, especially during quarantine when we're in lockdown. You guys are killing it. And it's so good to see you guys continue to support diversity and inclusion with these special platforms too. So bravo to you.
Yeah.
And to the new talent coming up in the business, you know, as AG has said, you know, this is an encouraging time because these types of conversations regarding diversity and inclusion did take place years ago when we were coming up, right, Chris? So, yeah, we didn't have this. So please take advantage of the fact that these conversations are happening now and try to, you know, have some good takeaways. We're going to have some really good takeaways from this. So again, I wanted to thank the Guild for having Chris and I moderate this panel of talented musicians. My question is for you, Vo. Yes. Authenticity and staying current are key factors in the hip hop game. Keeping it real and just, you know, staying relevant. So how do you write for Synch without compromising these distinct elements within the genre?
Right. So this is such a good question. And I think that it's one that really kind of touches all of the genres that we create and express through for Synch and for media. And that is how do we keep it real without compromising direction and essentially the sensibility necessary to create music that works well for picture or the other way around. You know, hip hop is one of those genres that is really rooted in the idea of keeping it real, staying authentic, and staying current. It's a genre that one of its superpowers is that we are able to influence trends in fashion and style. We're able to document current events and put those things to music in a way that other genres don't really do. So, it's one of those qualities and elements and values of hip hop that I think makes hip hop one of the more sought after genres to, drive brand ads for brands or, new projects that are coming out that want to attach to that cool and to that right now-ness of hip hop. Mm-hmm. So I get that. I know that that's a huge element of it. For me, I want to take a step to the side, not just in hip hop, rock, pop, whatever, and just try to encourage artists who are looking to get into this space and looking to write in this space to try to quiet that stigma inside of yourself, or that idea that that the music made for sync is not coming from an authentic place. I think people feel this way because they feel dirty about like the actual like aiming or the targeting that we're doing, the mindfulness and the calculation, the incorporating of technique and sensibilities in order to create this perfect tool for editors and to truly collaborate in a powerful way with what is our entire team, the production team, to produce a project. And I think that thinking or that trying is what the people who do believe in this stigma, that's what they associate with. And they think that there's something more pure about the artist who is not writing for purpose or not writing with these ideals in mind. But it's simply not true, because if you're in the room writing for The Weeknd or Beyonce or Drake, you're trying, you're thinking, and you're calculating. And you're not writing in your authentic voice. You're writing in their voice. If you're a great writer, you're writing in their voice. I think that this idea that an artist working for commercial release is creating something more pure than what we're creating. It's a fallacy, and really I would argue that music written for sync is some of the most mindful, connected, and authentic music that you can find, especially hip hop. When you listen to the hip hop that's created for this space against what's top 40, it's just the bar is so high. Working with AG, working with some of the people that I've collaborated with, the music that's coming out of those studios, it's just like the level is just, the depth of that music is so great. The value of that music is so great. So I would argue that what we do is of a higher standard. Although even though I still love like Migos and Kendrick and some of those great artists who are on the radio, 21 Savage, I love that stuff too. I like the Cardi B's and all that. But I would argue that what we're doing is of a higher standard. And to answer your question on how do I say authentic and current, and kind of like long story short, is that for me, I just try to find myself in the message, and I apply my life experience to the task at hand in order to collaborate, much like an actor would do, draw on their life experience to become a part of what's necessary in order to collaborate in that whole world. And the way that I stay current is that I create timeless and universal music. For me, it is music that is reacting to right now, but instead of speaking to the details like most hip hop artists do, in terms of like luxury items or brands or like athletes or things that are like on the surface of right now, I'm still there, but I go underneath that a few layers and get down to the atomic soul of what's happening, the feeling of what's happening, the tone, the mood. And I speak to something that is right now, but that is forever. And I think that creating timeless music is how I stay current. I have stuff on television right now that I made 10 years ago. And it's just as current as anything else. So in short, I stay authentic by putting myself in the message. I stay current by making sure that I'm creating timeless music that works for any time. 20 years from now, 30 years from now, you'll be able to listen to what we make, and it'll be right now. And I hope that answers your question.
Those are really good answers. I mean, you gave a whole sermon, and I'm like, ooh, crazy.
Well, I'm full disclosure. I realized that I sat with myself last night, and I'm like, I want to just be perfect on here. I think anybody that I want to be like excellent.
Real.
And
you keep it real.
Yeah, these are it's a big talk, and there's a lot of information that needs to be known about our sector in this space because we are underrepresented, and we're just developing our footing here and gaining our respect here. So there's a lot, and I'm just kind of settled in the fact that right now we're introducing the ideas, and I won't be able to get to everything. So that's just something I'm accepting and I'm living with.
Well, thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Lindsey, if this is your question. So this question, I think every woman in the workforce has been asked, at some point in their careers. It's definitely an important and relevant question to ask during this incredible uprising of female empowerment. So what obstacles have you faced as a woman in industry, and what methods have you developed to overcome them? I'm sure we could write a book on this, and I don't doubt.
Awesome. Like, how much time do we have?
I know. We write a whole Bible on it. But I think we've all have shared similar experiences, and we may have some different ones. So share some of your thoughts.
I mean, I think just the fact that most of the people in the power positions in any industry, but it's, in ours as well, at labels and publishing companies, wherever, they are men. And it's always been that way. So for me, I mean, I've been in this business since I was like 16. I'm 37 now, so 21 years. And I just kind of came up with the understanding and accepting the understanding that that the men were the people that I needed to sort of either gain approval from or, who I needed to please and who I needed to sort of mold myself into being whatever it was that they wanted me to be so that I could be in this business, which I so desperately wanted to do. So in my early years, what that looked like for me was, singing songs that other people wrote for me, whatever they told me to sing, however they told me to wear my hair, whatever I was supposed to wear, and look like, and personality even. I mean, I had a guy when I was in high school that was coaching me for interviews, and he was like, well, you need to be a little edgy. You need to be this and that. And I'm like, but I'm not really that edgy. Like, I'm from Maine. I live in the woods. Like, how edgy is that? Like, I don't even skateboard. I just, so that was, challenging. And then when I moved to LA at 25, the challenge there was that I knew I was sort of starting late. And I knew that, especially for a female in this industry, age is such a thing. I don't know if it is as much now, but it definitely was for me coming up. And I mean, even at the age of 19, I had people coaching me and trying to tell me like, well, you got to say you're 17. Like, really? What is that 2 years going to do? Is that really going to help? And then when I was 25 and I had just signed my first record deal, it was this indie label, and same thing, like, oh, we should say that you're younger. And it's like, oh my God, I felt like an old lady at 25 and I was just getting started. So that was incredibly frustrating. And I am not somebody who, I'm not a good faker. I'm just not. I didn't want to lie about any of that. And so I found that really challenging because, again, at the same time, I wanted so badly to be in this business. I am a people pleaser by nature. So I wanted to be agreeable and easy to work with. And I wanted to leave the room in a studio and have people saying like, oh man, she's great. Like, she sang everything we asked her to sing and she did it just like we wanted her to. But somewhere along the way in my 20s, later in my 20s, really, I just started rebelling and I just did not like it. I wasn't happy. I wasn't fulfilled in any way creatively. I found myself writing songs that I didn't even like. I was just in the room, like kind of almost working for whoever the alpha in the room was, which usually was a man or the producer or whoever. And it's funny because there were even times when I didn't even know how to use my voice yet as an instrument. I was so, I don't know if discouraged is the word, but I just felt so less than, that I didn't have the confidence in me to even use my instrument the way that it was meant to be used. And I didn't get to a point where I really even found that or learned how to use it until probably the last 5 years. So it was in my 30s. And I like to think of myself as a late bloomer, but it just took a while for me. And really the way that I navigated all of those feelings were just that I left LA. First of all, I just got really tired of the rat race of LA and just writing every day and writing with different people. And I was so busy chasing approval that I was really betraying myself and my own creative instincts. I wasn't following them at all. I wasn't using any of my gifts, really. When it comes down to it, I don't know what I was doing, but I was very lost. And so I left. I moved to Nashville just to kind of start over, and got back near the woods and nature like I grew up in Maine. And I just sat with those feelings and kind of tried to remember why I wanted to be in this business in the first place and why I wanted to make music in the first place. And I just started creating music from that place. I just started having fun again. And that was when the band Farmdale that I used to be in was formed. And I was already signed to Secret Road at the time. So when I turned that music in, it started getting some placements. And it felt really good to make money for the first time in a long time. And I was like, oh, wait, hold on. I can have fun making music and I can make money doing it. And nobody cares how old I am. And I like it made so much sense. It made me so happy. I never turned back. And I'm so, so grateful to Synch for that, because I do feel like, I don't know, I kind of feel like more of an artist now than I ever did, even when I was signed to record labels. I feel more creative. I feel like I can do anything. And I don't worry about any of that stuff. I don't worry about having anybody's approval at all. I just do what I want to do. And like what Vo was saying, like, I don't find it hard to be authentic at all, because generally what works for Synch is writing empowering songs. And the way that I got back to myself was through writing songs as though they were affirmations. Like when I'm writing Synch songs, I'm building myself up. I'm trying to convince myself that yes, I can, or that I'm all of these things that I say in the songs. And it works. It has absolutely worked. I feel my best that I've ever felt. I feel the most confident that I've ever felt. I know how to use my voice now. I know how to change it for different personas and different songs. And I don't even really care if like someone at a label or wherever, whoever those people were that I used to worry about pleasing. I don't anymore. And I just don't care.
Yeah, you just do you.
Yeah. I just grew out of it, I guess.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So Tommee, what is it that you do consciously or subconsciously that enables you to collaborate with so many women and people of color successfully?
Yeah, I think just like Lindsey said, like I have a hard time faking, right? Like I just feel like I'm always myself out. That's the only thing I know how to be, right? And so my whole life, I've always just genuinely loved people, like encouraged people, you know what I mean? I've just been like the glass half full guy in the room, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, whether it, different types of people that come in the studio, it's like, it's kind of a non-issue in the studio, like what that person looks like. And I want them to feel that quickly. And I think I view my role as a producer, as a producer, you're kind of the person that like, you have to kind of make the session go smoothly. You got to keep things going. If there's like a roadblock, you got to, the pressure's on you to be the one to keep things creative or inspire the different people in the room, and I've had to stop arguments in the room between two writers. Like you're kind of like, like you want to do it, but you want to do it in a way that's also like encouraging, and offering, positivity. And, that's who I am. So I feel like, I've learned that artists, musicians, producers, all of us music creators, like we thrive on positive feedback. Like we all feel insecure at times. You know what I mean? Whether that's playing a new song for someone for the first time, if you're a singer, or if you're a producer, a new track, playing sounds for people that you've never worked with before. Like, we all kind of have that feeling of like, we need to be validated, you know, from time to time. And so when I'm working with people and someone's, you know, singing, like, one of the things I've noticed, if I were to just sit there, hit record, and I'm just like scrolling through my phone or just kind of checked out, and they're like singing all these incredible things over here, and then they're done, then I'm like, all right, do another one. And I just hit record again. And I'm just kind of, you know, sitting there, like, that person every time is thinking, oh, he hates this. This isn't good. What am I doing? And they just, you lose the performance from them. You know what I mean? Like, but if you're like invested in that session and they're singing and you're just like in it, and then when they're done, you're just like, that was incredible. Oh my gosh, like, do another one just like that. Like, give me another one, you know, and you're like giving feedback, like, they're so much more confident. And the next take is going to be even better. Like, you open them up, you know what I mean? And validating their ideas, like, hey, what do you think of if I sang this? And they're like timid, and you know what I mean? Like, if you just kind of create an equal playing field in the room where it's like, I'm not the producer that's, you know, bossy and calling the shots. Like, you're here, like, you're the artist. Like, let's have you give your ideas and validate them, and then say, yeah, let's try that. And just trying everyone's ideas. And you know what I mean? Like, I think that makes a huge difference in the environment in the room, when you can provide, you know, positive reinforcement and not fake either. Like, everyone that, you know, when we work together, like, everyone deserves to be there. Everyone has a story that led them there. You know what I mean? And letting people's ideas shine and talents shine, I think, is super, super important.
Yeah, totally agree.
Thank you, Tommee. AG, I'll throw this question to you. In the last 6 months or so, there have been numerous conversations about diversity and inclusion, which is important. And I'm glad that we're having these conversations, you know, and they're happening more and more. But, you know, given the climate that we're currently facing in, with the politics of it all and the social injustices, with regard to racial gender biases, when do they work for you in your favor? When did they work against you? What worked for you and what didn't? I know for me, coming up in the entertainment industry, and it's slowly changing as the world turns, I've always had to, you know, the challenge of being either the only female or the only Black executive in creative spaces, or both. But oftentimes I've learned to use this as an advantage. And sometimes it can be empowering, and other times it can be a little discouraging because you're the only person in that room representing minorities or females. But, you know, what have you faced, and how did you overcome those moments?
Well, yeah, I mean, what's interesting and quite wonderful about the sync world is that I think that the only reason really why I've been able to get to where I am is because in the sync world, I have found that best track wins, best song wins, most usefulness wins, most humble wins. It's not about, you know, my gayness or my brownness or my womanness. It's just so, I mean, to be fair, when I first started producing, I went by AG because I didn't want anybody to know that the music that they were hearing was coming from a woman who was not singing that music. Because I was worried people would judge my work based on my gender. And I think that over time, I realized that in this world, it just doesn't matter. Like what Lindsey was saying, like, you can be whatever age you want. Like, I sort of feel the same way. And I think that I am so grateful for that. So in a sense, in terms of the industry, I think that I have like been able to rise. I think that in studio sessions, I think it's been rare, but there have been times where there were a couple dudes that came in that were like, why is she sitting at the board? Why is she telling me what to do? You know, and I was able to sniff that out pretty quickly, and I just never worked with those people again. But most of the time, like, all the men that have come into my studio are like kind of, in a sense, refreshed by the fact that they're not just working with another dude, that there's a different perspective, there's a different energy in the room. And, you know, and not to say that male energy isn't also valuable, because obviously it absolutely is, but there's just a different energy when there's a woman behind the board. And it's wonderful in a lot of ways, I think. And I think that, you know, most of the time when I'm working with new artists, they're like, yeah, I'd literally have never even seen this, what you're doing, like a woman doing it. So it's nice to be able to be like, yeah, see, look, girls do it too. Cool. Let's move on. You know? I think that, being gay oddly has worked in my favor in a way, because I don't know how to explain this. I don't consider myself a very masculine woman at all, but there's an element of like, dudes just don't really have to worry that there could be any kind of sexual issue with me. We can just like do our shit and it's like not a big deal. I think that sometimes it can be a little difficult when there's like a straight girl and a straight guy, and the girl's it's just a weird power dynamic. I think that it can, and also I know the few female producers that I know and engineers, that they sort of have to puff themselves up and also kind of make themselves not as pretty as they are, because it makes people take them less seriously. And I hate that for them, and it drives me insane. And I think that, you know, it's just weird that being gay has actually helped me in this odd way. And I think, you know, like there are these camps that are like, or like there was this film called Promising Young Women that came out, that it was like everybody was female, all the producers, all the writers. There was a whole camp like around it. And also the Vita camp with the Vita show on Stars, like it was all women. And I was a part of both those camps, and those were super successful projects. And that was amazing. Now, where it has not worked in my favor, it has always been in the commercial pop label world. I certainly do not want to get too dark, because I have worked really effing hard to take this chip off my shoulder that I had for a long time. But I think that it's important to acknowledge the reality of like how things are, but to also have the audacity to think that you could be one of the people that changes that, or where it maybe just won't happen to you. And I've sort of been in those situations where I was like kind of naive, and you know, I was in college. I went to Berkeley for, you know, production and engineering, and I was super discouraged back then to pursue it as a real profession. And you know, I'm 43, and so that shit was in the 90s, and so I was literally the only girl in all my classes. But that was where I started to learn to just raise my hand, even though every dude was going to look back over me and be like, oh my God, this bitch again, like raising her hand. Like, what is she doesn't know what she's doing. Like, I sort of had to like kind of get confident in college, you know, but for whatever reason, I wasn't strong enough back then to take that confidence and apply it to the real world, because the real world scared me, you know? And so I was an artist for 15 years. And yeah, but I think that, you know, there have been so many times where I've developed an artist and then like they get signed and I'm not even really a consideration as being one of the producers on their record. They like want to put them with like the big guns, and the big guns are always dudes outside of Linda Perry, always. And, you know, that's been difficult for me. And the first time that happened, it broke my heart into 100 pieces. I was super depressed for like 2 weeks. I couldn't believe that it was happening, that this was actually real. And then I just was like, you know what? That's a ceiling that I don't know if that ceiling is shatterable, but to be honest, I love being in the sync world. I feel at home. I feel like I can be extremely authentic. I don't have to worry about being too much.
Yeah.
In the way that I choose to produce music. I can produce music that is hard hitting and bombastic, and I can produce music that makes you want to cry your face off. You know what I mean? I'm not pigeonholed as to like, you know, a woman can only produce music that's like sensitive and like, you know, emotional. I think that's bullshit. And I get to actually challenge those theories all the time in this world, and it's really wonderful. And I don't really know how to change this reality, but I do see things starting to shift. I do see some artists really openly supporting women and people of color, and bringing them up. And so I definitely think there's hope, and I think these conversations are super important.
Wow, thank you for that, your perspective on that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people are going to get a lot out of that. Good takeaways.
Yeah, definitely. Bo, wanted to ask you this, and this is something that's even like close to my heart, and I even get asked by this by a lot of Kobalt writers and artists. So creatively, just in particular for hip hop, you're in a space, a music, a genre that has been created and dominated by Black artists. However, most of your sync opportunities are presented and decided on by non-Black supervisors and executives. How do you navigate these two spaces? And also importantly, what advice would you have for other artists of color trying to successfully navigate both spaces?
That's such a good question.
Trust me, I get asked it a lot on my end as a publisher, as someone who is on the front lines of pitching music. So dealing with managers or artists, especially in hip hop and Black artists, they're asking me, these sorts of questions. So really just love to hear your, as an artist.
I want to first say, before I give my answer, that we are all, just as AG said, we're all so fortunate to be in a space that has this kind of culture to it. The fact that we're having this conversation on the Guild of Music Supervisors is indicative of the willingness and the openness to create change and to be a powerful ally and a safe space for all people, all musicians and music supervisors in our space. I think that this is a testament, this work that we're doing right now is a testament to the culture that we work in. Of course, it's not perfect at all. But I think that the willingness is fertile ground for change to happen. You have to first be willing and be open. Yes, everybody around me is white. 99% of the people that I work with are white. 99% of the people that I partner with and that I take direction from, people who are, judging my music against other artists, Black, white, brown, yellow, whatever, everybody's white. And I think that this structural dynamic is not one that is unique to Synch. I mean, we're in the United States. Every business is structured this way. Sports, the people on the field are Black. The people who own the teams are white. Luxury, fashion, the people who sell these items are Black. Rappers, creating style, creating what's hot. The people who own Louis Vuitton, who own Bentley, they're white, So this isn't a structure that's unique to Synch. This is something that is embedded in the foundation of the world, and namely the United States of America. And anything that is built on that foundation, even in all of its innocence and good intention, will have this, will be off balance in that way. I commend the people that I work with, the music supervisors that I work with, for being good people and for having the best intentions. And a lot of them are probably not even walking in the room thinking about race. They have the privilege of not having to, right? So I don't condemn them at all. A lot of them are my brothers and my sisters and my mentors. The person who brought me into this game, who gave me the opportunity and taught me a lot about the ropes, is a white person, a white man from Britain, or a British white man. What I have to say is no complaint on them. I just think that it's important for all of us to be mindful of these facts so that we can move forward in a mindful and thoughtful way to create that change. When I came into this space naturally, because I walk the earth as a Black man, just like AG and Lindsey had kind of touched on, is, people who are minorities, we don't have the privilege of walking in without thinking first about who we are in that space. When I come into the room, I know who I am, and I have my imagination and my ideas, whether I'm right or whether I'm wrong, of how you see me. I'm thinking about that first. I don't just come in and press play. I'm like, I'm a black dude about to walk in this room with a bunch of white people who want to tell me to do something. So what does that mean? I need to dial up the openness. I need to dial up the welcoming nature of myself in order to make you feel comfortable about just working with me, collaborating with me. These are ideas that I had when I first came in, by the way. This is not the way I operate now. I have, I'm in such a tight family and community. I have so much trust and support from the people that I've been able to kind of work through this. But, this is more a testimony for new artists who are coming into the space, who may be bringing these ideas with them and letting them know that I have these thoughts too. But yeah, I would be scared to do business. I would be scared to do business. I'm doing business, but I'm scared to do it. The process, the natural, organic process of business, negotiation. This is a natural process of business. I was scared to do that. I didn't want to seem difficult to work with. I didn't want to seem like the aggressive black guy, it very much so was a lot of that. There's been situations where I've been essentially asked because, 10 years ago coming into this space, there's always been hip hop. The House Party came out in the early 90s, right? So there's been hip hop syncing the music, but there hasn't been this connection to how to use hip hop besides just press and play over a scene. There hasn't been this, like, how do we drive this character's story with a hip hop song? I think that technology is happening now, right? And when I came here, there was nothing like that. There was none of it. I was able to just walk in. It was a blessing because I was able to just walk in anywhere and be like, yo, this is actually what I love to do. And the doors were open because there was no competition. Now everybody is, everybody's here and it's beautiful. I love to see it grow. But I had a situation with a supervisor who is a brother of mine. I love this guy to death. And I gave him the space to correct this and to talk about this because I know that he didn't know, which is why we're having this talk. Mm-hmm. But there was a brief where I presented to him what I feel, obviously, I don't have a huge ego, but I felt like, I was like, yo, but outside of like calling Kanye or like, Andre 3000, it doesn't get better than this, fam. Not in your budget. You know what I'm saying? But I could tell what he wanted me to do, but we started having this conversation about authenticity, but in a different way. And I can tell that I don't say the N-word in my music. I just have a richer vocabulary and I've trained for 10 years working in this space, creating universal timeless music and essentially packing for a month-long trip in a travel-size suitcase. That's what writing this kind of music is like, right? So I don't use the N-word. I don't need it. I have so many other words I can express myself with, but I can tell that he wanted me to say that. He needed that. He was like, yo, I'm feeling it, but it's just not quite, is there any way to make it just feel more authentic? And I know what he wanted me to do was to do that. And, it's been stuff like that. I would say that that's the landscape. Industry is always going to reflect the world that we live in. And as the world changes, the industry will change. More inclusion in film means more music to drive those stories and to add value to those environments of these new characters that we're following. So it means a lot of growth, a lot of growing pains, and that's what we're going through now. I would give the advice I would give to a Black artist. I know people of color, we kind of have this BIPOC thing or whatever, but I'm not qualified to give anybody any advice about anything I don't know. And but I know being Black because I've been Black my whole life, right? So the advice I would give to a Black artist is don't be afraid to do business. Okay. Get educated, right? Understand the market, learn about standard budgets and deal terms, and eliminate the imagination of what you don't know with information, with knowledge. That way the insecurity dies down and the confidence grows, and you can do business in a way and you can sleep at night. You know you're being fair, right? Be undeniable, right? If you don't feel confident in your music, you don't think you're ready, then keep practicing and never stop. Be undeniable. When you press play, know that what you are pressing play on is, if the ground doesn't shake, then maybe you're dealing with somebody who doesn't understand your genre. They may have the brief, but they may not understand your genre. Get organized. Have your business organized. If you're going to come into Synch and work in this space, especially if you are making hip hop, music supervisors have tons of nightmare stories, and they're mostly about hip hop. So get your files organized. Have your writers and your ownership organized in advance. Be a tight package. Be easy, fast, ready to clear. And finally, I would say stay true to who you are. If you don't say the N-word, don't say it. Don't dial up the black in order to fit. I feel like for hip hop artists specifically, we're, again, as I said, it's only been 10 years as we're starting to use hip hop in a more valuable way against picture, and to use it to tell stories and to use it for emotional tonality. So we're still crude with it. We're still in the first iPhone, right? But as we grow, we get more detailed. Right now, I find that not everybody. There are some scholars out there, whether they be white or black or whatever. There are some hip hop scholars out there that I've had the pleasure to work with. But a lot of people are still stuck in this idea that there's only 3 kinds of black people, and that's angry, DMX, cocky, Kanye West, or goofy, nerdy, Childish Gambino, Andre 3000, right? But we are a total people. We're a complicated and complete people. And if we're artists, then we're able to produce a spectrum of value besides just those 3 categories. And we can also do those 3 categories. So if you're more than that, then be more than that. If you're only one of those 3 things, don't be ashamed of that. Yeah. Learn that and kill it and make it yours. Mm-hmm. If you're none of those things, don't become any of those things. If you don't make hip hop and you grew up on rock, like I love Metallica. I'm a massive Metallica fan. I love rock. I love heavy metal. Jimi Hendrix was one of my idols. If you make rock and you're black, make rock. Make black rock. You know what I mean? Stay true to yourself. Know who you are and dominate that, because nobody can beat you at you. And I'm going to get off my pedestal. I know there's like
that's great.
I think you answered the question that I had later on. So good. You did.
Oh, okay, nice. Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm like consolidating my time in the one.
You did.
All good. Yo, that was.
All right. See y'all later.
No, that was really great. That was really great. I'd also add to always just make sure to stay curious and be asking questions. Because no one comes into this knowing everything, and you only learn by asking questions. And that's honestly the advice that I give to artists or managers who ask me that same question when they're dealing with me from the space of like pitching their music out. So thanks for that, Bo.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, Lindsey. So what made you start producing? And were there other examples of women producers that you looked up to, or were your mentors?
Well, I looked up to AG, really. I mean, she was the one that I knew and that I had worked with before that. And I just remember being just like so impressed with her. And but I'll be honest, like when I was watching her, when we worked together, I didn't necessarily in that moment think to myself, wow, I got to do this. I still, I don't know. I still had that same sort of conditioning, I guess, that I was talking about on the earlier question, where it's like it wasn't even necessarily an option, which is kind of sad now when I think about it, but it's the truth. And, in my earlier years of working with producers in LA, I remember that, especially when I was working on my own music, I did have a lot of production ideas, and I would sometimes voice them if I was comfortable enough, but I oftentimes got sort of put in my place, and not necessarily in like a mean or rude way, but it was just very clear to me that like I was overstepping a boundary. So I think that was another reason why I was just like, oh, I guess, like one producer would let me comp my vocals. So that was as close as I got to producing. And so that was kind of cool. And I loved that. I like really nerded out on that. But everything else, I just kind of was like, all right, well, I don't want to offend anybody. Like, this is their job. And I kind of was trained by this early producer that I worked with who was very sensitive to that. And I guess I kind of felt like he sort of taught me the ethics of it. And it seemed like, well, you shouldn't do that, you know? So I believed that for a long time, unfortunately. And then when I started that first band, Farmdale, with my ex, that became like the first kind of sync band that I was in, we did all of that together. And, you know, we were living together and I was comfortable with him. So I didn't have to worry about that whole thing about offending anybody. It was just, we were both learning Logic at the same time. And, you know, I mixed a lot of those records just because I had a lot of opinions about what I wanted to do. And luckily I was dating a guy that kind of let me take charge sometimes. I'm like, go cook us dinner. I'm going to do it. So that's sort of how I started to learn. And then in terms of like when I started producing on my own for the first time, that came about because Secret Road emailed me one day and said, hey, you know, there's a client that's looking for a replacement for MIA Bad Girls. Do you want to take a stab at it? And I asked my boyfriend at the time, I was like, oh, do you want to do this? And he was too busy with something else. And he was like, you can do it on your own, which of course I can't. But I didn't want to let fear win. So I went upstairs and I had like 24 hours to do it, which in hindsight, I think was really a blessing because I really didn't have time to overthink it. And I was just, oh my gosh, I'm sure I was awful to be around that day because I was so stressed. I didn't know what I was doing, but I just sort of like did all these things and I just threw everything together and had fun with it. And when I turned it in to Secret Road, they loved it. I didn't get the thing that I wrote it for, but that song did later get used on a lot of stuff. But the feedback that I got was so great and it felt so good. And all of a sudden I had this moment of like, oh my gosh, like I did a thing and like, maybe I can do this more. And then they encouraged me and they said, yeah, do more like this. And so I did more. And I remember, I think it was the second Oleana song that I did in that way. I thought about AG and I was like, okay, what would AG do right here? You know? And so like, I did this like 4 on the floor thing and I had all these claps going and I mean, she really was inspiring to me. I don't even know if I've ever told you this, AG, but that's true. And, yeah. And so then I just, over time, I guess I did maybe 5 or 6. And then I got feedback again from Secret Road. And I'm so grateful to them because they were so incredibly encouraging. And they said, you know, you're really starting to, this is kind of a sound, like you're developing a brand here. You should call this something. And so that's when I decided to make it sort of this new persona that I was going to follow. And I also want to make this point for anybody who's watching, especially a female who, because I have a lot of friends that are artists and that don't think they can even cut their own vocals or just little things like that. They're just so sure. They're like, no, I could never learn how to do that. No, that's just too much. I promise you it is not. It is not. I was so intimidated as well. And if you have any inclination of thinking that you might be interested in it, just follow that. Just find out, you know, and it's okay. Like maybe you find out that you hate it and you don't want to do that. And that's totally fine. But maybe you find that you can do it. And there's nothing more liberating as a singer and as an artist than being able to, number one, record your own vocals so you can write to tracks and send the files back. That alone is just so incredibly helpful. And then as an artist, just being able to like, because again, I'm a bit shy. It's hard for me to try things in front of people with an audience. I tend to like, be a little riskier with stuff creatively if no one's watching. So when I'm at home alone at the board, or not at the board, at my laptop really, right? I just find that has been, again, like more creatively fulfilling to me because I've been able to allow myself to play and to just have fun and just see what happens. And what's happened is I have sort of created this thing that I never really intended to do. And I also want to make the point that I think what made it a sound, if you will, was the fact that I was limited as a producer. Like that worked in my favor because I only had so many like paints in the box to play with, so I kind of had to be more creative in how I was using percussion or what I was doing with my voice. I had to stack a lot of backgrounds. And I guess I just want to make the point that I really feel like if I can do this, I feel like anybody can do this. And it takes a willingness, and like, you know, you got to be brave, and you got to decide that it's okay. Like, all right, maybe it's going to suck, and that's okay. Like, it's okay to not be good right away. I still don't by any means feel like I'm a good producer, but I keep doing it because I love it. And I aim to be a good producer. And I look up at people like AG, and I want to be on her level someday. And I know that if I put the work in, I can get there. So, yeah.
And you will. You're doing an amazing job.
Thank you.
This question is for Tommee. The impact that music and musicians have had on our lives, you know, is never stagnant, but provides the constant growth and learning. And we're constantly growing and learning and teaching. How do you feel you've grown as a producer, composer, and artist through your interaction with female musicians or musicians of color specifically, given the fact that you've had an amazing opportunity to work with such a diverse cross-section of extremely creative talent?
Yeah. I think that's what makes like collaboration so special. You know what I mean? Like, I love just collaborating with different kinds of people. And I feel like I grow so much doing Synch. You know what I mean? I feel like people in Synch, like, it's just such an awesome community to be a part of. First of all, I think everyone that's in Synch loves being in Synch, and we're so grateful to get to do it. And, you know, that it's kind of a smaller circle than people think. I feel like a lot of us know each other, whether we work together or not. Like, the Synch world can be, you know, kind of like a close-knit family feel, you know what I mean? Even on this panel, some people I've met, some people I haven't, but I know most of, you know, the people and stuff. And so I just feel like I grow more doing Synch than I do when I work with artists, you know, because a lot of times when an artist comes in, they're you know, they either know exactly what they want, or they're asking you like for help or whatever. But with Synch, I feel like, you know, the gamut of what Synch covers is so broad. The spectrum is so broad. You know, when someone says, let's work for TV and film, like, that could be, you know, the stomps and the claps and the snaps and stuff, or it could be like the Brahms and the whoosh bangs and the risers and the strings and the choir and the brass, right? The trailer music and like everything in between there. Like, it's just such a huge thing. And so I love that variety in Synch and that diversity. And I feel like, so when people are coming in, the backgrounds of all these different people are what makes it so special and what pushed me to try new things. If it was me sitting in my studio by myself, like, I have a limited box of things that I'll be able to come up with by myself. And if I work with the same couple people all the time, we're just going to have, you know, the box of what we can come up with. But when you have all these different people, you know, coming in, we're different from each other. Like, I've been asked to do things that I just know I'm not super familiar with how to do it, you know, and I could just say, no, we're just going to do this or whatever, you know, but that's not how I do things. So I try it. And I feel like every time I try it, I learn new things. And I'm like, I can apply this. You know, sometimes I just, you know, like, I'll get to a point where I'm like, I'm just not good at this. I can't, you know what I mean? I'll be honest if I feel like, you know, it's not working. But a lot of the times I just feel like I'm pushed to do new things, and it allows me to grow, and I learn, and I'm like, man, I could try this on other things. I should do this more often. It pushes you out, you know, of your comfort zone. When both people are bringing ideas, and I'm bringing my strength, the other person brings their strength, and you put it together. And it's just new things happen every single time. You know, sometimes you start thinking I'm going to go in this direction, or we're going in this direction, and you run across a sound, you know, and the other person might say, hey, that's dope. What if you do this with that? And that changes the whole song. It literally goes from one genre to another even, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, I think it's a super special thing, all the different backgrounds and genders and races and background, you know, cultures, everything coming together. You have different ideas, and you kind of expand the minds of the other people in the room to try, you know, new things.
Right.
Cool.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah. So AG, I just want to preface this question because I just want a little backstory. AG called me maybe like 3 weeks ago, and we sat on the phone for, it had to be about an hour and a half, just talking about this panel, what was going to be discussed. and really just talking about our sync community and sync world and navigating it as minorities, whether it's code switching, whether it's being able to just navigate in different worlds. So I wanted to know, what characteristic traits do you think are needed to be successful in this field, and especially as a minority?
Well, I mean, I think that, there are traits that you have to have just as a human being creating music in this field first. Like, I don't know, I feel like, we live in this in-between world where we're not like, it's not like full on commercial, but it's also not composing. It's this weird in between where there's varying degrees of creativity that you get to have based on the project. Like sometimes you get to be as creative as you want, especially if it's not something that you're doing specifically for something and you just did it because you're like, oh, I think this could work. And then it lands somewhere and you're like, cool, great. Look at all this creative control I had. But then sometimes when you're working on a project, they're like, okay, here's what we need you to do. We need you to push this button, this button, this button. And then to me, it's about how do you find the inspiration within whatever parameters you're given. And I think there's a lot of humility that's involved in that, and being of service. I think that you have to just like realize that the reality is that sometimes people are just going to want the thing they're going to want, and you've just got to figure out how to make it feel authentic and how to make it feel like you would want to listen to it and your heart is in it. And that's not always super easy to do, but it is possible. I feel like that's a big one. I think, as a minority, I definitely think that we tend to need to be more prolific, and we need to be making a lot of music, and we need to really understand the landscape. And, I think that, I don't think that we should be disillusioned by the realities. We need to acknowledge them and then just truly have like what I said earlier, is have the audacity to think that we could be the ones that'll change it. And, there's an element of not taking no for an answer that's super important. I mean, I feel like Lindsey is this way. I just love this about her. She's that personality. She's just like, yeah, okay. Yeah. You think I'm going to do that. And I know she doesn't always feel that inside, but that's how it comes across. And it's huge. And just, I think positivity is so important, and just coming from a place of collaboration and symbiotic, doing business symbiotically, if that makes sense. Like, it's not about like what you can do for me. It's about what are we doing for each other, because we all have jobs that we're trying to keep and trying to grow. How can we help each other do our jobs better and make each other look good? And I think that in the sync world, it's very possible to do that. I feel like I've always felt that way. Whereas in the commercial world, I just feel like it tends to be more about, what can you do for me? What have you done for me lately? And I'm not a huge fan of that. That's just not the way I like to do business. But I think that like there's an authenticity in the way you communicate with the people in the sync world that I think is super important too. It's like, this is a community of human beings, and we are all total music nerds. Otherwise we wouldn't be doing this. And there's a commonality there, that I think is, and we're all, again, we're trying to be of service to picture. We're trying to be like, how are we going to enhance this scene? And it just so happens that really resonates with me. I really love that. And I think everybody here does too. And I just, but yeah, I don't know if all of those things have to do with being a minority. I know that for me as a woman, I had to even though the sync world is definitely more kind of accepting in this way, just in general, in the world of being a music creator, I had to be good quickly. I did not have permission to suck ever. If I was ever going to be taken as seriously as my male counterparts, I had to be better than my male counterparts, or at least as good. And when I set out to do this, I was so pissed. I was just pissed off. And I was like, oh, okay. So you think that I can't be a producer unless I'm producing myself? Okay. Well, I'm also going to be a great mix engineer because that's why. And that's what drove me for a long time. And I think that, you know, in the beginning, if you need to be a little pissed off and you need to prove some people wrong that you have had in your head for so long, and you just got tired of listening to the things that they had said, then that is what it is, you know. But at some point, I think that there comes a time when you've got to start getting a little more pissed and a little more confident and a little more loving and a little less needing to prove something. And I think that I've finally gotten there, but it took me a long time. But again, the more confident I got, the less mad I got, the less mad I was. And like what Vo said, I mean, it's just like, knowledge is power. And, you know, and I know a lot. And so I don't need to be showing it off. I just know that I know. And it's great. And I'm also a student always, and I'm always learning, always. And I think that there's that element too. It's like being confident that you know your shit, and also being like, I don't know shit. And like existing in both spaces at the same time is like, to me, the foundation of like real humility and just like, I don't know, curiosity, like what Tommee was saying, you know? But yeah, I think that what making music is impossible. Making money doing music is impossible. And you've got to just think that you can do the impossible. You just have to be so myopic or so just like naive or blindly optimistic that you're going to just do it. And also you have to love the shit out of it. You have to, because otherwise it doesn't matter how far along you get, man. There are days when I'm like, thank God I love what I do, because if I did not love what I do, I would quit. I would have been gone like years ago. And I had that feeling like 2 weeks ago. Granted, we are in a pandemic and the world is burning down, but like in general, that feeling doesn't really go away. So you have to keep coming back to the love for it, the fact that you can't not do it, that you don't have a choice. And I think that like, if you have a choice, you probably should, I don't know. If you don't have a choice, you absolutely can never quit. You just cannot. So that, I don't know if I answered the question, but.
Oh, no, that was great. No, that was great.
Yeah. You went off. Go off, Queen.
Yeah.
Go off.
Go off.
Go off.
Is my mic muted? Because I may have screamed a couple times. Can y'all hear me? Oh, y'all can hear me.
Yes. You went there like Bo, and I loved it.
I'm here for it. I'm going to watch this again and watch that.
As you should.
Oh,
so I did have a question, Vo, but I think it tied in to what your answers were for Chris. So I'm going to skip over to Lindsey because we don't have a lot of time.
Okay.
Lindsey, you know, I've seen you hustle and grind and work on so many projects at one time. What are the pros and cons of having multiple artist projects? How do you manage and prioritize each of them?
Well, I'll start with the cons, okay? So the con is pretty easy. It's just, you're really spreading yourself pretty thin. You got to have social media for all of them. You have to have the websites. So there are, like what AG was saying, there are days where I'm like, what have I done? The admin alone is just, it can be a lot, especially because I'm releasing a lot of music, especially right now. Like every week I'm putting stuff out. I'm like, I got to put it on YouTube. I got to go over here. So that's the con, right? But whatever, that's small. The pro is more that for me, because I'm one of those people that is just insatiable and I get bored really easily. For me, it keeps me inspired because I never feel like I am one thing and I just have to stick to being that one thing. And that's what people expect from me. I feel like I can literally just do whatever I want at any time. And when I write songs, I mean, I just kind of go with whatever comes out. And then I decide, oh, who is this? Which version of me do I need to file this under? So if I want to do a heartfelt piano ballad and I want to get back to my roots, how I started, then it's Lindsey Ray. And if I want to be, you know, like the empowerment female, kind of sometimes rock and sometimes alternative and pop and dancey, then I'm Rayelle. And when I feel like testing out, what it's like to rap, then I become Oleana, which is also really hilarious to me. I just have to say, like, I never in a million years would have thought that I would be rapping. Like, and I don't even really know if I can call it that. Like, sometimes when I say that, and I don't know if that's because I'm white or what my hang up is about that, but I don't ever want to like have people be like, okay, this girl thinks she thinks she's hip hop. Like, I know that it's my own, it's hip hop. Okay. That's what I'm going to call it. But yeah, I mean, like I said, the pro for me is just that I really am never bored. I don't even know what that word means. There's always something to do. There's always another song to write. There's always another post to make or another thing. Yeah. And I just, one feeds the other. Like, as soon as I'm over here and I get bored on this thing, then I go over here. And I just feel like it's like this, I'm in this really cool flow now where I just am like an endless fountain of ideas, and it's great. It's really exciting, and it's completely the opposite of where I was in my 20s. So it's because of Synch, and I know that, and I'm so grateful for that. And I also feel like I need to like make a confession, just because we're all here and we're all being so vulnerable. I feel a little guilty right now because I have been somebody who has sort of played down the importance of Synch, or played down like what it takes to do it, because I have assumed that the perspective of people around me is that I'm less than, or that I'm not a real writer, or I'm not a real artist because of this. And I've accepted that too, and I've sort of played into it and made excuses for it, and been like, oh yeah, well, and I'm done doing that, because after tonight and hearing the way everyone's talking about it, and like Vo, when he gave his sermon, I mean, my God, everything that he said, I feel so deeply. And I was like, yeah, it is really hard to do what we do. And it is in some ways, higher quality. It's so specific, and it is such a service, like AG said, like, especially when what is being called for is a song that's going to uplift somebody. Like, I mean, the amount of messages I get on Instagram from people all around the world about, how I'm affecting them, it just blows my mind. And it's such an honor that I get to like do this thing that I love and then reach somebody in Latvia. I mean, come on. Yeah. So for me, it's really mostly pros. The cons, we don't really count them. It's no big deal.
Yay.
I think we have about like 7 or 8 minutes left. So just really quickly, I just want to ask this question, and we'll just go around just really quickly, starting with you, Vo. With everything that's happening in the world across politics, protests, racial injustice, COVID, California's on fire. I think there was like a meteorite that was close to hitting Earth. Whatever's going on.
Don't jinx us, man. Don't jinx us.
Let's just put it this way. 2020, how do you stay motivated to create?
I just try to tap into things that make me happy. I try to tap into captaining my motivation and my inspiration, and really, creating is for me something that makes me feel good. If I can't find it there, I'll work out. I'll meditate. Sometimes I just have to wait. I just have to give myself I have to afford myself some acceptance and just wait for it to pass. But, ultimately, I truly and honestly feel that this moment that we're experiencing right now is temporary. I feel like it will pass. I feel like God honestly feel like it will get better, which may be some of that, optimism that AG was talking about. And that keeps me going. And I'm able to just kind of get inside of myself, create, escape into the music. And that's basically how I continue to create right now.
Great.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Tommee, what about you?
Sorry, I was unmuting. Yeah. I think for me, just trying to be the positive person in the room, you know what I mean? I think I look for opportunities to encourage and present joy and hope when I feel like people need that more now than probably ever before, you know what I mean? And people look to, some people, they look to faith, some people look to addiction, but a lot of people look to music, you know what I mean? And as creatives, I feel like we have an opportunity where we can provide something that uplifts people's spirits through the music that we're making, even for Synch, you know what I mean? So I think I take it like it's a responsibility, you know what I mean? We can do all that we can to help, you know, encourage people during this time when they probably need it more than ever.
Yeah, great. Lindsey?
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Am I on? I am on. Okay.
You are.
Was the question more? I'm sorry. I got diverted here. I'm confused about the question. Is the question, how do we stay inspired to keep coming up with stuff during the mess that is 2020?
How do you just stay inspired?
Okay.
Everything going on in 2020 to create.
Oh gosh. I mean, I feel like, oh, this is going to sound so annoying, but I'm going to be honest. Honestly, like I don't, it just doesn't stop up here. So it's like, it's kind of annoying sometimes. I'm trying to take a break and watch TV or something, and I'll hear a beat. Oh, I should use that and kind of mess that. So for me, it's like the inspiration is sort of always there, and I feel really lucky about that for whatever reason. I hope that never gets taken away from me. And then in terms of 2020, I feel like I'm more inspired now to write uplifting music, like Tommee was saying. Like, I feel, again, like he said, it's a responsibility. I feel like I'm in a position where I get to now respond to this and write as many comeback songs as I can, and all these different, you know, versions and personas that I play around with. So, yeah, I'm really grateful for that, and I'm going to keep doing it, and hopefully it will, you know, reach some people and uplift them. I hope.
It will, and it does.
Yeah. And AG, you want to close this out?
Close it out.
I mean, first of all, like I don't feel like I'm even capable of writing anything that is dark. I'm capable of writing how's it gonna end up? We don't know. That's as far as I can go at this point. But like, I mean, in terms of the sonic landscape, I feel like what's cool is that if you write stuff that is really positive, you can put it up against any landscape and it'll be awesome, you know? So that is what it is. I also feel like as music creators, we are channeling something that is different and that will never happen again. And I feel like the music I'm making now, that we're making now, is we're going to remember this time, and we're going to be like, wow, we were really tapped into some shit. We were tapped in and we didn't realize it when we were in it. I mean, like,
yeah,
I feel like, I mean, I'm raising a kid. I've got a wife who also has a career. Like, I'm trying to navigate a lot of stuff, and my cup is like always like super full. We have barely any childcare, and you know, it's every day, it's a new thing. And with the media and with like I mean, I can't even get into that, but like, it's almost like, thank God I can make music. And I just want that to get into the songs in some way. And, you know, yeah, I don't know. I just feel like we're channeling some special stuff right now. And it's difficult, and it's real, you know, and it's not easy. But I also think that there will be an end to this. And I also tend to, in my blind disillusionment, optimism, whatever you want to call it, I tend to think of this time as laying some train tracks down for the next era or the next sort of period of our lives and my life and music in general in the Synch world. I really just am trying to just look ahead. I wish I could fall asleep until November 6th or 5th. I really wish I could just wake up November 4th, if it's the 4th, vote, and then go back to sleep till the 6th, wake up, and like the whole world is okay again. But like, I can't do that because I got a kid I have to feed. But other than that, I think that I am so unbelievably grateful for music during this time that I really can only put that energy into every song I do in the most positive way I can do it. So
yes, and make sure you vote, like AG said. Vote.
Yeah.
Make some changes. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody, for showing up.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Hi, everybody.
Bye,
everyone.
Thank you, Chris and Mamie. Thank you, Guild. Thank you,
Yes.
AG, Lindsey,
Guild, everybody.
Tommee.
Yeah,
Madonna Wade
thank you
Reed,
guys
what
so
up?
much.
Tamara
Don't forget-
Bubble, what up?
Everybody join the guild. We want all the supervisors and all of our friends of the guild to be involved in this community. This is our big Synch community, and we really appreciate everything you do. So Madonna and I are working hard along with the entire board and all of our committees to bring this stuff to you, but it takes you guys to be involved as well. So we really, really appreciate it. So thank you so much.